No sound, just give me a second. I think I'm on now. Okay, great. Sorry about that. Sometimes this microphone doesn't want to do what it's supposed to do. Okay, great. Now that you guys can hear me, sorry about that. All right, friends, back to the beginning. Welcome. Welcome to month 5 of the Dresden Project. We are going to be working on this flower right here. Super. I'm so thankful that you guys can hear me. I was having a moment of panic there. We're going to be working on the Dresden flower. So if you notice, I put a picture of the Dresden flower up in the corner because I want you to kind of visualize what a dahlia looks like, right, that we're working on today. So today's month 5 of this series. If you have missed some of the previous episodes, you may want to go back, because what I'm going to show you today kind of skips over some of those steps because I've already shown them to you in a previous episode. So if you have the templates that I gave you guys at the beginning of this series, we're going to be using this middle one. There's an echo. Do you guys hear an echo now? Okay. All right, so we're going to be using the middle one, which is an 18-degree template. So if you will say hello to everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. So for this particular flower that you see over here in the corner, you're going to be using the 18-degree ruler. Most of you guys own just a regular commercial ruler that looks like this. And so this is what we're going to be working with. But if you don't have that, you can always use this middle template, which is an 18-degree template on the handout that I gave you earlier in the year. Okay. All right, friends. Hopefully that takes care of all of the technical difficulties we had. And we're going to go ahead and get started because I'm a one-man show. I'm running the computer and I'm running the cameras and I'm trying to sew, which can be interesting sometimes. All right, so let me tell you about myself. My name is Yvonne. For those of you who don't know me, introduce yourself in the chat if you haven't done so. I am a high school teacher. I live in central Kentucky. I teach in Louisville, Kentucky, which is right on the river. So I love teaching high schoolers. It's always interesting. And so quilting is my hobby and my obsession. I also run a free after-school sewing club at my high school because one of my goals is to ensure that we preserve this craft, this hobby for future generations. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so I'm going to upload a picture for you guys to look at. And so let me go ahead and get rid of this image here. And so let me get rid of that image. And I'm going to substitute that with another picture that I want you to look at. Hi, Norma. Our friend Norma's here. So let me add a photo for you guys to look at from my computer. And so hopefully you can see that. Can you see that image? I'm going to shrink it down and move it. Okay. So what I've put in the corner for you to look at is, let me see, there it is a layered, and I'm going to scooch this way. That is a layered Dresden, right? So if you look at that particular block, what you see is actually 2 Dresden plates that have been layered on top of each other. And so that particular Dresden is made with 2 different size blades. It's made with an 18-degree wedge that was cut at 2.5 inches, and it was made with a 10-degree wedge that was cut from the top of the template. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to get rid of that picture, and then I'm going to show you the first part is the supplies that you need and how to cut them, and then I will sew 2 layers and show you how to put those together. Okay? All right, friends, so if you're ready to go, let's get started. So I'm going to show you my 2 camera view so you can see what I've got. All right. So the first thing that I'm going to need is a template, of course. If you have this particular template, it's the 18-degree wedge in the middle, and it says 20 wedges. If you have a commercial template that looks like this, that just says Dresden, these are not super expensive. You can get them on Amazon. They cost about $9, $10. They're not super expensive. This is super handy for what I'm going to show you today. Okay, so for my Dresden, I'm going to be using 4 different jelly rolls. I'm going to be using this hot pink for the middle or the central part of this layered Dresden. I'm going to be using this brighter fuchsia color, and then last I'm going to add a purple, right? And so I'm going to use 2 different kinds of purple on the end, and pink and lighter pink. So that's what I'm going to be using. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to cut my Dresden, and I'm going to show you how to cut a layered Dresden. So in order to cut a layered Dresden, I need to show you what it looks like when it is broken apart as it looks in relation to this template. So a layered Dresden has multiple pieces, right? The first piece that we're going to cut for our layered Dresden is 2.5 inches wide, right? And it is the height of your jelly roll strip. So if you can visualize this, this is my first jelly roll strip. I'm going to be cutting Dresdens that are this height. And so I'm going to scooch my template, and I'm going to line up that 2.5 inch line with this part of my jelly roll. So this is the length of the jelly roll. This is the height of the jelly roll. And so then you're just going to cut this alternating directions all the way across to get your wedges, right? And so line it up with the second. Let me move my pressing mat out of the way so I can show you what I mean. So that's the first strip. And because I need 20 of these, you can fold it in fourths. You will get all 20 out of one jelly roll strip. You can lay that right on top of each other if you want to. And I just need to make sure that I line those edges up completely. And I will line that up with 2.5 inches, and I'm going to give it a little cut. And I'm going to flip this around, make sure they're all lined up, because sometimes when you twist them around, they get moved around. I'm going to lay that right on that 2.5 inch. So this is the width of the jelly roll, right? I'm cutting along this way. And I get little tiny wedges. And these wedges I'm calling wedge set 1, right? So these are these smaller wedges. Next, I want a wedge that's actually wider on the bottom than on the top, right? And so as I go up this template, my wedge is going to get wider at the bottom and wider at the top. And so my next piece, let me see if I can lay paper under here so you can see it. My next piece actually overlaps. Can you guys see that? I made these plastic templates so that you can see. So how I'm going to be cutting my wedges today, if you can visualize this, it's a broken wedge that actually has an overlap of about 1.5 inches, right? And so I've taken this entire Dresden template and I've broken it down into 3 pieces. And as you can see, the pieces end up looking like this. One is very thin at the bottom, and it is, let me get my ruler so I can tell you how wide it is. This is 3/4 inch at the bottom, and it is a little over 1.5 inches at the top. This next one is 1 1/3 at the bottom, and it is 2 1/3 at the top. And then this last one is almost 2 inches across the bottom. And so I'm going to use this template to show you how to cut the next piece. So the first piece, right, you simply lay your jelly roll strip horizontally, and you're lining up your edge with that 2.5 inch line right there. So you're getting these little tiny wedges that look like this. That's the first part. The next row, you're going to want to move this up, and you're going to be lining this up. If I show you my template, with the 1.5 inch across the bottom and the 4 inch across the top. So I'm going to line this up, slide it down like this. It's going to leave a bigger hole down here at the bottom, and you're going to line up that top with the 4 inch mark. Right? And you can just fold these in fourths. These are half strips I have here. And so the second row, again, you're lining it up with the 4 inch line and the 1.5 inch line. And you're going to cut these, always being careful to line up that top with that 4 inch line. And again, horizontal along your jelly roll strip. So this is your jelly roll strip, and you're going to get these pieces that look like little chunky tumblers. So this is your next piece that you're going to need. So you have this one that you cut at 2.5, and then this one that you line at 4. Okay? The last one is the very top tumbler, and you're going to line this up, and in my case I had this purple and this purple, and I'm going to line this up with the top of my ruler at 5.5 inches like this, and then I want it to go down to 3 inches. So as you can see, I've already cut one side of this. So I'm lining that up with 5.5 inches. And I want that to be at the 3 at the bottom. And I'm just flipping that around, making sure that I'm at 5.5 and 3. And so then my last piece will end up looking like this. Right? Looks almost like a tumbler block. So I have one that looks like this. They're all 2.5 inches tall, but they're cut from different segments of my Dresden ruler. And that's what's going to allow me to create a Dresden that's layered. Okay, now you're going to have to be careful when you take these to the sewing machine, especially these, because they can get flipped around. So you're going to fold them just like we did all the other ones. You're going to fold them in half, and you're going to sew them from one side to the other. And when you're done, you're going to have a big pile that looks like this. So these are my tumbler blocks, this top one. And then when you are done with all of those, you're going to clip. I like using just little applique scissors. You're going to clip that end like this. Can you guys see that? You're going to clip that end on all of these. Then you're going to do just like we did all the other ones. You're going to flip them over and press them open. Just going to flip, push, and press. I'm going to take every one of these, line them up central. I always just like to push them with my fingers and leave the iron on there for a second. And you're going to make wedges that look like this. right? In my case, my wedges on the outside are going to be 2 different colors. So I'm going to alternate mine with 2 shades of purple for the outside. So my outer ring will end up looking like this, right? So it's going to be 2 shades of purple. My inner ring is this baby pink, and I've already started sewing. You guys remember, right, how they get sewn? You put them in pairs, then you put those pairs in fourths, then you put those fourths together. And let me show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to pull my sewing machine over here, and I'm going to sew the next group because I've got a bunch of them already pressed and ready to go, and I'm going to show you how I sew these into groups, these first 2 layers, so that you can see how I'm going to put this layered Dresden together. Am I making sense? Does anyone have any questions so far about what I'm doing? Okay, I'm going to move my microphone over. So excuse all the cables going every direction because I'm literally sewing in my office space. And let me flip. Okay, so I'm going to move my microphone over here, and I'm going to bring my camera over. So hopefully, if I put something underneath it, you can see me. All right. All right, can you guys see my camera angle? Perfect. Okay, when I sew my Dresdens, and this is the thing that you have to remember about layered Dresdens, is they go together just like all of the other ones. I sew my sets in a continuous group, and I just keep pulling off of the end. And let me show you what I mean by that. So without breaking my threads, I literally just keep feeding my pieces through the machine, and let me show you what that looks like. So I started all of these just like in the other videos, right? And then I'm going to pull this off the end, and I'm going to attach it to the next one, and I just keep doing that over and over again until I get all of the pieces done, because it goes in pairs, then it goes in fourths, and so on, right? And so by sewing it like this, it just makes it super fast. I use a leader and an ender. I have this big piece here and this big piece here. You can see both of my pieces, right? And then I'm going to try to attach the next piece to that end. And if I counted correctly, I should have 20 pieces that are all connected. And I can connect it on this side over here. And without ever breaking my thread, I'm just putting the entire thing together. Almost. I just have one corner to attach. And if you notice, I use my leader and my ender, so there's my entire circle. And I'm going to put it together, right? So I'm going to lower my camera so you can see what I'm talking about. I've got my entire circle, and I'm going to sew it together now. All right, does anybody have any questions about the project? And let me talk about the project. So in this series, we're going to be building all of these flowers. But then at the end, we're going to applique them down onto a larger background. Okay, so let me switch my camera really quick. Can you guys see? All right, so I'm going to take this pile, right, like I did before. because some people said that they wanted to see the entire sewing process. So that's why I'm modeling this today. So I have my pile of 20, and I start and I lay them up here, and this is my middle row. I just put them right sides together, and I feed them through the machine like this, just in pairs really fast. This is a semi-industrial machine that I'm using today. It's a Brother PQ 1500. And I love it because it does one thing well, and that's straight stitching. And it's great for free motion quilting. They are not my sponsor. This is my machine that my husband bought for my birthday a few years ago, and I love it. People ask me what my favorite machine is. This is one of my favorites. All right, and so you can see I'm just putting 2 at a time, feeding them through there. It goes really fast when you do it like this. You don't even break. You don't even break the thread or stop. And you just go the whole way through. You should have 10 sets of these because we have 20. And you put them right sides together after they've been pressed up. And there we have it. So once I've come to the end of my set, right, and I've got this entire little string, then I will grab the one at the end, break the thread, and I will grab the next one at the end, and I will put it together. So I will take 2 pieces and put it together without breaking the thread and feed them through. And by doing it this way, you can make your Dresdens really, really fast. So you just take 2, break the thread, put them together, right sides, and feed it back through. And you just keep doing that until you've sewn your entire Dresden circle. All right, so what are you guys doing today? Is it hot where you're at, or is it cold? Here it's pretty warm. The rain is coming, but it's nice and muggy, so. I'm sewing with all of my fans on today. My ceiling fan, the fan underneath my desk. And there we have it. I just keep putting these together. And before you know it, the entire Dresden is finished. Oh, don't worry about it, Rosina, if you missed the beginning. I think my microphone was off. But we're all caught up. Okay, so now that I have them all in pairs, right, you see them, my little string is shorter. I'm going to come back and do it again. So I'm going to break these. And now I'm going to take these that are 4s, and I'm going to put it together with another one that's a 4, like this. And so this just makes it super fast to put it together this way, and that allows you to have your Dresden go together without getting all of your pieces confused. Okay. So now this one is a 4, and this one is an 8, so we're going to attach that to this end. And then this one is a 1/2, so I'm going to attach it to this end right here. So I can go either way. I can attach it to that side or that side. And I never even break a thread. So now I have my circle almost complete, and I bring these 2 ends and I swing them around, and without breaking a thread, I finish this last piece, and then my entire circle is done. People often ask me, why do I sew this way? I sew this way because it keeps my pieces in order. And the other reason is because it keeps my pieces, keeps me from wasting excessive amount of thread, and it keeps my pieces all together. Okay, I'm going to switch camera angles and I'm going to show you what to do next. Okay? So let me move all my cables out of the way and let me switch camera views for you. All right, back to two cameras. Let me move my microphone out of the way. Now let me put this camera back where it goes. All right. Back. All right, friends. So let's recap really quick. We started by cutting out 3 sets of pieces, right? These cut 2.5 inch mark on my template. These were cut at the 4 inch mark on my template. And then the last one was cut with this edge on the 5.5 inch. So it's a cool day in Germany. That's awesome. All right, so now that I have 2 sets of circles, right? 2 complete sets, I'm gonna give them a little press. So this is the first one. So this is the small one that we made from that end, which is that 2.5 inch end. So this one right here. So Christine says, you bought a template, but it doesn't say how many degrees. What you can do is make a test block and see how many blades it takes to make a circle, because a Dresden is based on a 360 degree. And so you take however many blades you have, right? So if I divide 360 by 18, it gives me 20. And so that's how many degrees it is to get into a full circle. All right. So I have this one. This one looks pretty good. And so it made my small flower. And that's my middle. In the item description, I said you're going to need a circle for the middle, and this circle is, I believe, 3.5 inches. Yeah, because this is a 3 inch. So this is a 3.5 inch circle. And I can tell by looking at it. So then the next one, if you notice, is just a little bit bigger. And so I'm going to press it flat. And it's actually going to fit underneath. And I love making these with batiks because batiks hold it nicely. Now, one of the things that I'm going to tell you is that I like flipping all of my Dresden seams to one side. Some people will tell you to press them open. I never press my seams open if I can avoid it, because it just weakens them over time. And I'll tell you why. A lot of people, especially if they're doing their own quilting on their domestic machine, will quilt in the ditch or stitch in the ditch. When you do that, if your seams are pressed open, you're actually sewing over just the tiny bit of thread that's keeping your entire quilt together. And so, having quilted for almost 40 years now, I can tell you that my obsession is always with pressing to one side. And I don't stitch in the ditch. I stitch either on the low side or the high side of the seam in order to keep my quilt nice and strong. Okay. So there's my circle number 2, right? And my circle number 1. And now I'm going to lay these on top of each other. So when I build my flower, you can see there's just a little bit, and then these go over, right? And I'm going to do the same thing. So for this particular thing, it doesn't matter which way the seams go, as long as they are to the side. And so that's how I'm going to build this particular Dresden. Now the last row that I'm going to build is literally exactly like these two. I'm going to take this thing that looks like a big tumbler, and they're going to end up right under here just like this. So when I'm done pressing these and sewing them together, it's literally just going to be sticking out like this. And my quilt block will end up just like that with 3 layers of petals going all the way around. Does that make sense, friends? How we're building a layered Dresden? And you can put as many layers as you want. The only thing that you have to remember is that when you cut your pieces using a commercial ruler, that you have to overlap them by an inch or an inch and a half. The further out you go, the wider your blade gets, the steeper these peaks will be. So the wider the angle, the steeper the peak. See how these peaks are very small? And then these peaks are getting bigger, and then these peaks are great big. Okay, that's the only thing that you need to remember. So grab yourself a basic Dresden template. Decide how you're going to do yours. Remember, I cut mine at 2.5. I cut mine at 4 inches, and then I cut them at 5.5. So 2.5, 4, and 5, and it gives you this layered Dresden that I can now turn around and put a really fun middle, and I've made a layered Dresden dahlia flower. All right, friends, does anybody have any questions? For those of you who do not have this commercial template, what I'm going to do really quick is I'm going to draw these out and give you the measurements so that you can do your own. But this is a really, really beautiful block when it's done. I love a layered Dresden, and these are great, especially if you're doing them with batiks. But this one by itself is really cute. Even if you just had 2 layers, if you didn't do the 3rd layer, this is adorable just as it is without anything else. I love this particular method. Okay, how wide is this one right here? Let me get my ruler and I will tell you. So this particular block right now is not quite 10. It's like 9.5 inches. If we're talking centimeters, it is 25 centimeters across if you just wanted to do 2 layers. Okay. If you do not have a printed template, or you don't happen to have this particular template, let me give you the dimensions and let me draw them out on my little block here, because I drew them out for myself. So this first one at the bottom, right, I'm just going to lay it on the 2.5 inch mark. I'm going to take my pencil and draw it out for you. The next one we needed at the 4 1/2 inch mark, so it's 4, let's see, yeah, 4 1/2 inches is what that was. So it's 4 down to 1.5 inches like this on my template. And I'll give you those dimensions in a second. And then the last one was 5.5. And so we lined it up 5.5. And it ended up on the 3. So I'm going to line this up 5.5 to the 3. And then let me go ahead and measure these and give you dimensions so that you can cut your own templates if you do not have access to a printer or a fancy ruler like I have. Somebody said, how do I sew the layers together? Great question, Becky. How I'm going to sew these layers together is I will simply pin them like this. And I will line them up so that these points hit the valleys. And then I will take them over to my sewing machine and I will just pin this all the way around so that it stays centered. No, that one's sliding. Pin it in 4 spots. And then I will carefully come here with my sewing machine and I will straight stitch all the way around to lay those flat, okay? And so I will take some still shots and I will do some screenshots and I will put them in the YouTube channel and I will also put them on the Facebook page, okay? Does anybody have any questions about how to build their layered Dresden? I think it's pretty straightforward. If you know how to make a basic Dresden, then it's just a matter of practice on how you're gonna take all of these little bits and create your own layered Dresden. I hope that you like this particular flower. It's one of my favorites. I love layering Dresdens together. But this is episode 5. The next time we get together will be September the 4th, and we're going to be making the Mexican Primrose. And the Mexican Primrose will have a template that I will post on the website, and I will also have measurements. But for those of you who don't have a printer, let me measure these really quick and give you the measurements so that you have those. So I will measure these really quick. So for piece number 1, right, which is, we're going to call these 1, 2, and 3. So piece number 1, you will need to measure at the bottom. This is 1 inch, right? If you're doing centimeters, then that would be 2.5 centimeters. So that's 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters. This top of this particular tumbler is almost 2 inches, so let's just call it, let's call that right at 2 inches. So that's 2 inches, so it's 1 inch and 2 inches. And remember, this is 2.5 inches tall, 2.5 this way. And all of these are 2.5 tall, right? 2.5, and this is 2.5 vertical. So let me measure number 2 that you're going to need. And this one is 1.5 inches at the bottom, so this is 1.5 inches. And that is 2, and let me see, that's 2 1/3. 2 1/3 inches that way. And then piece number 3 is going to be 2 inches across the bottom, and across the top it's going to be 2 3/4. 2 3/4 inches. And what I will do is I will put all of these measurements on the website. And if you downloaded the handout, you know that you will need a total of 4 jelly roll strips. I used 2 jelly roll strips for the outer ring. I used 1 jelly roll strip for the middle ring and 1 jelly roll strip for the inner ring. And so that is everything that you need. I hope that you are going to get in there and practice making a layered Dresden. It is 2:40. If you don't have any additional questions, I can answer questions later on in the comments, or you can just send me messages on Facebook, and I will be posting screenshots of my finished block. So I hope you guys have a great afternoon, and I will see you guys next time. I've got a video with a thread catcher to go with our sunflower coming up. So I'm going to be posting that on the website, and we also have another gnome coming, and we're going to continue working on this Dresden project. All right, friends, I hope you guys have a wonderful Sunday afternoon. I appreciate you more than you know. I will see you guys next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave comments or questions. If there's something you want to see or I didn't cover, please. I try to take my time every evening when I come home from teaching, and I try to answer all my YouTube questions at least every day, but sometimes every other day if I get too busy. All right, friends, I appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful afternoon. Don't forget to make some beautiful dahlias, and I will see you guys next time, okay? Bye, friends.